a shower. Let's hit the pub. It's happy hour. If we get bombed, who gives a damn?
Hi guys, and welcome to Longstocking Nano Brewery down here at Pambula on the New South Wales southeast coast. Immediately behind me here is a work in progress, a labour of love. But look, I won't go on about it. Come inside and take a look. It's very interesting. So what we've got here, folks, is a Blickman setup, and it comprises of 3 vessels. They're both, all 3 are 200 litre capacity. And to my knowledge, it's the only one that we have here in Australia that's gas-fired. So what we've got here in front of me is the hot liquor tank. In the middle is the mash tun, and right on the end here is the kettle. So what we've got under here is our Blickman burner. That's the piezo ignition wire that runs down to the side of it here, and that ignites the burner in conjunction with the controller. So all the fittings we've got on our vessels, folks, are triclover fittings. And this unit up here, just up the top here, that's the sensor that runs back to the controller unit, which allows the burner to come off and on at our predetermined temperature settings. So this is our solenoid here. Both the hot liquor tank and the mash tun have a solenoid. The kettle doesn't. That's a standalone unit, as I said before. Each of them, all of them, the HLT mash and kettle, have a gas valve. And this solenoid is controlled again by the controller unit, which we'll get to shortly. Yeah, so you'll notice that the vessels have a sight gauge. It has a rating in litres on this side and gallons on this side. Also, you probably noticed that there's a temperature gauge sitting in the mash tun. Again, there's triclover fittings. Over here, you'll notice there is no temperature gauge. That's simply because we're using the temperature probe sender going back to the controller. Whereas on the mash tun over here, the probe is actually in the tower unit, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes. So this is our kettle unit here. Once again, we've got triclover fittings in here. That's the outlet for the kettle. This one over here is actually our whirlpool, so that when we're going through our chiller unit, which is down over here, that's the copper coil unit over there, we can actually recirculate the hot wort from the kettle, and we actually bring it back in through the whirlpool and start whirlpooling the chilled wort. Okay, so what we've got down here, folks, is we've got our march pump, which is a recirculating pump, and that receives the wort from the mash tun as we're doing our mash. It then gets pumped up through this unit here, up into a flow meter, which is an ingenious piece of equipment. And I can adjust the rate of flow in gallons or litres per minute by adjusting this up and down. Also, it travels up through here and it goes through a 3-way valve. And I can throttle that forward or backward, controlling the flow of the wort in and out of here, which is very important when you're mashing because you're recirculating that wort the whole time. The other great thing about it is we've got this sampling port here, and we can take extracts from the wort at any given time to check pH, to check sugar, to check taste, the whole lot. Excellent thing. Okay, folks, this is the ingenious part of the whole process, the Blickman tower controllers. This is obviously for the hot liquor tank, and what we've got here is in the hot liquor tank at the moment, the actual ACT temperature is 15.4 degrees Celsius, and I've got it set for 50 degrees Celsius. Now, in our second episode, I'll be firing this up, and you'll see how the whole unit works through its full operation mode. So you may remember, folks, that I said that the mash tun doesn't have a temperature probe inside the actual vessel. It does have a thermometer, so we can balance out between that and the probe. This is the actual probe here, and just before I mentioned that we had the flow of the wort through here. As that flows through, this sensor is actually picking up what the temperature is, and it's giving us a reading up on the controller. So we've got a temperature rating here, and we've got one back at the thermometer. This probe will always be super accurate because it's measuring the temperature of the wort and not the density of the mash that the thermometer would be measuring. So this unit here, folks, is the transformer. In America, they work on 120 volts AC. Of course, in Australia, we're 240 volts AC. So I had to get a transformer in order to work all this equipment. The guys at Cheeky Peak Brewing in Wodonga, Jezza, Matt and Tony were really helpful in getting all this gear to me. They are in fact the agents for Blickman. So this is our separate sparge pump. Again, once fitted with triclover fittings, and this is a bleeder valve down the other side and sampling port if we want to use it. And what happens is that when we're sparging, the water from the hot liquor tank will come into here. It will then go out through here. It will make its way back up and into the mash tun. And you can see this is the ball valve float control. As we lift it up, it cuts the flow so that we can control the amount of hot liquor that's going in on top of our grain bed. You'll notice obviously at the moment it just has cold liquor in there. And the difference between liquor and hot water is very simple. It's the fact that we've treated the water. We've got our parts per million right for hardness, and we've got our pH right. So what we've got here, folks, is we've got our counterflow wort chiller, which is a, as many of you will already know about these things, but it's a copper tube, a fluted tube inside a copper. And what we do is, in order to, after we've done our boil in the kettle, we've got this hooks up here onto the outlet of the kettle. Our hot wort just comes from the kettle, goes through this unit here. It then goes out, gets hooked up onto this March pump here, and it's recirculated back through into the whirlpool over here, and cools it down quite dramatically. I've done tests on it, and we've gone from 100 degrees Celsius down to pitching temperature for the yeast of 24 degrees Celsius in around about 40 minutes. So what we've got here, folks, is we've got our keg washer. I didn't get that from America, it came from China. Again, triclover fittings, nice looking unit. What happens is we fill our cleaning solution in our tub here. The solution runs down this hole, travels down here, down through here into the pump, and then gets recirculated through this pipe up here, up through the centre. And remember, our keg is inverted and sitting over the top of the unit, but this is full of the cleaning solution. So this is our 200 litre fermenter. We have another one on the way as I speak from China. Right down the very bottom, at the bottom of the cone, the conical apparatus here, or the cone, you'll notice the valve there. That's for harvesting your yeast at the end of the ferment. This tap up here is to draw the wort off, and then it'll go into kegs or into bright tanks for lagering. We've got a temperature gauge here at the front. Probably a bit hard to get to that. Over here on this side, this is a spray cleaning ball, and that allows us to put cleaning solution through here on this triclover fitting, and we can carry it all the way up to the top, and that goes in through the top housing here so that we can clean the whole unit out. So last but not least in our small nano brewery is our lagering or bright tanks. They're over here. They're 1 HL or 100 litres each, and we'll have 10 of those, which will give us a capacity of 1,000 litres. Oh God, that's good. You are too sick for myself. Too sick. You're not filming that, are you?
Of course not.
Oh, that's all right. Make sure that doesn't go on YouTube, for Christ's sake. Look, we certainly hope you enjoyed our first little episode of the work in progress at Longstocking Nano Brewery, and hopefully you'll join us when we actually do our first brew day, which will be coming up in the next episode. See you then.